Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Unwind, Gentle Yoga with Hands to Heart Center and Boston Public Library. My name is Kristin, and before we get started, I just want to say that Hands to Heart Center Yoga for the People is a nonprofit organization that shares the healing practice of yoga with people affected by addiction, poverty, and trauma in Greater Boston. Hands to Heart Center would like to thank the Boston Public Library for partnering with us on this virtual project. So welcome to our yoga class this afternoon. If you have props, feel free to reach for them. If you have 2 blocks or 2 books, you can feel free to reach for those. If you don't, no worries. I will be giving modifications for those of you without props. If you have any blankets or cushions, feel free to reach for as many of those as possible. I always suggest for my students to have the most luxurious and supportive end of practice. So if you'd like that for yourself, feel free to reach for as many blankets and cushions as you would like. And if you don't have those, that is okay as well. There are no props needed for today's class. I'll be giving modifications for people with and without props. So whenever you're ready, feel free to find a lying down shape whenever you would like. I want to mention as well that this is your practice. I am here as a guide only, so you can choose to follow along with me, or you can choose to practice any other way that feels right in your body. Your body might be calling for something different than what I'm doing, and that's perfectly okay. So feel free to move in whatever way feels available to you. And if you would like, you can choose to find your way to a lying down shape on your mat whenever you're ready. So once you make your way to the floor, if you'd like, you might choose to keep your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. So your knees might be reaching up towards the ceiling. And if you'd like, we'll start with a very subtle movement. So we'll start with what's called pelvic tilts. So if you would like, in your own time, maybe inhaling and starting to lift the lower back up off the mat. So you're moving your pelvis away from your body. So you might notice that there's a bigger gap underneath your lower back. This can be a very small movement where maybe you don't even know there's much movement happening. And in your own time on your exhale, if you'd like, you can start to maybe press a little bit into your feet to bring your pelvis to tilt the opposite way. This time your lower back starts to flatten on the floor. So you might notice a little lift with your tailbone. And in your own time, taking a few small movements here. So if you'd like, pressing your tailbone towards the mat so that there's a little space underneath your lower back. And in your own time, coming back through center and maybe pressing that tailbone up, the lower back might start to flatten to the mat. So maybe doing that one more time if you'd like. Tilting your pelvis away from your upper body. You might notice that big gap underneath your lower back. And in your own time, maybe coming back through center and maybe lifting your tailbone up off the floor, your lower back might press into the mat a little bit more. When you're ready, finding your way back to stillness, back to a neutral place with your pelvis so that there might be a small gap underneath your lower back and your pelvis feels like it's at its neutral spot where you're not pressing in one direction or the other. And if you'd like, maybe bending your knees, possibly bringing your knees into your chest. You might start to rock from side to side in this shape. Maybe you choose to be still in this shape. You can find whatever movement or stillness feels available to you. Or if you'd like, you might choose to move your legs in circles. So maybe moving your knees in circles, possibly starting in one direction. Making this movement as big or as small as you might like. So again, choosing whether you'd like to experiment with movement or stillness. And then if you did choose to move your knees in circles, maybe starting to reverse your legs, moving in the opposite direction. So if you started to move your knees in circles, maybe moving your knees in the opposite direction in that circular motion. Taking a few moments to experiment with any or all of these choices, and when you're ready, finding your way back to center. If you'd like, maybe bringing your left foot to rest on the floor once again, and you might choose to bring your right leg straight. So maybe there's a slight bend in your right leg, maybe your leg's a little more straight. If you'd like, you can bring your hands behind your right leg for support. And here you might choose to pause here, maybe adding some movement in your right ankle. You might choose to move your ankle in circles in one direction. In your own time, maybe moving your ankle in circles in the other direction. Whenever you're ready, maybe letting that go. And if you'd like, possibly moving your leg forward and back. So this might be a small movement, maybe it's a little bit bigger. And maybe coming back to center, and if you'd like, possibly moving your leg from side to side. Again, maybe this is a small or a big movement, finding whatever feels available in your body this evening. And when you're ready, finding your way back to center. In your own time, you might slowly let go of your leg and slowly let it make its way back down to the floor. Hands can be on another part of your body or resting on the mat. When you're ready, slowly starting to bring your right knee in towards your chest again. This time, lifting your left up, and in your own time, slowly lowering your leg down towards the mat. Finding your own pace here. Listening to your body. And then when you're ready, when your leg makes its way to the mat, we'll do that one more time, pressing your right knee into your chest, maybe straightening the right leg up, and then slowly pressing that right leg forward, letting it make its way down to the floor in your own time. When you're ready, maybe bringing your right leg back to your mat. And if you'd like, maybe starting to bring your left knee into your chest. You can bring your hands to your leg, maybe lifting your left leg up towards the ceiling. Maybe your hands rest behind your left leg for a little bit more support here. Now, possibly adding some movement in your left ankle. So you might choose to move your ankle in circles, possibly moving in one direction a few times. If you'd like, you might choose to reverse that circular movement if you chose to move your ankle in circles. Or maybe going a few times the opposite way. When you're ready, making your way back to center. And if you'd like, maybe slowly bringing your leg forward and back. So again, this can be a big or small movement, finding whatever movement or stillness feels available in your body. Maybe coming back to center. If you'd like, you can move your leg from side to side, making this a big or small movement with whatever feels available for you. And when you're ready, coming back to center, maybe releasing your hands and slowly letting your left leg lower down to the floor in its own time. Again, there can be a slight bend in your left knee if you'd like. When you're ready, when your left foot makes its way to the floor, you might start to bend your left knee, bringing it into your chest again. Lifting up towards the ceiling and slowly making its way down towards the floor. Taking your time getting there, making sure you're breathing here. And then when you're ready, maybe doing that one more time. So you might bend your knee in towards your chest, lifting up to the ceiling and slowly lowering down to the floor. When your leg makes its way to the floor, you might start to come back to that knees bent, feet on the floor shape. Taking a breath or two here, maybe noticing how your body is resting. And in your own time, maybe slowly starting to roll over to your left, the left side of your body. So you might bring your arm so that your head can rest on top. You might have your right hand resting in front of your body. If you have the space, you might also have the left hand extended. Maybe the left hand pressing into your head with elbow bent. So finding whatever shape feels available to you in your own time, bringing your knees in towards your chest so that they're at a 90-degree angle if that feels available in your body. And maybe slowly lifting and lowering your right leg a few times. Maybe doing that 3 times at your own pace. Lifting and lowering your right leg, allowing that to be as big or as small of a movement as you would like. When you're ready, maybe starting to lengthen both legs in this same shape. And then experimenting with doing that again, lifting and lowering your right leg, making it as big or as small of a movement as you would like. So possibly experimenting here 3 times. Maybe one last time. And then if you'd like, one more exercise in this shape, you might start to maybe lift that right leg, bending your knee in towards your chest, and then extending back down. So maybe lowering your leg again, you might choose to lift your right leg, bending your knee in towards your chest if you'd like, and extending it back down to lower back down. Maybe one more time, lifting, and in your own time, bending into your chest and lowering and bringing that leg down to the floor. When you're ready, slowly starting to roll yourself to lie on your back. And in your own time, rolling over to your right side, I'm going to shift the direction I'm resting on my mat so you can still see me facing you. So rolling to your right side, this time the right arm can be underneath your head. Maybe it's long, maybe it's bent. Maybe you have the elbow bent with your hand pressing into your head. Finding what feels available to you in your own time, bending your knees in towards your chest. So maybe they're at a 90-degree angle. You might have your left hand resting in front of your body. And whenever you're ready, maybe slowly starting to lift and lower your left leg this time. So possibly doing that 3 times. Again, this can be a very small movement, or maybe it's a little bit bigger. So you might find what you might like to experiment with the most. Once you've done that enough, you might start to straighten both legs down your mat. And once again, if you'd like, lifting and lowering your left leg in your own time. Making this movement as big or as small as you might like. Maybe doing that one more time. Making sure you're breathing here if you can focus on that. Sometimes we forget to breathe. And if you'd like, maybe this time lifting slightly, bending your left knee in towards your chest if you'd like, and then extending long and back down. So possibly doing that 2 more times. Lifting, bending your knee, and extending back out and down. And if you'd like, maybe trying that one more time, lifting up, maybe bending your knee, extending and down. In your own time, starting to roll yourself to lie on your back once again. Maybe your knees are bent. If you'd like, you can hug your knees into your chest again, as we did earlier. Maybe rocking from side to side. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe finding your way back to stillness. And if you'd like, making your way to seated. The one way to get there might be to rock yourself up to seated. That might be a little difficult. So if you'd like, you can also roll to one side and slowly press yourself up to a seated shape. If you have a blanket or a block or a cushion, you might choose to bring it underneath your hips. So sitting on it so that your hips are gently raised up off the mat. This can help keep your back tall and strong in your seated shape. So once you make your way to seated, maybe taking a pause here. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or keep a soft gaze in front of you. Maybe starting to notice, if you'd like, how your body is resting in this shape. So if you'd like, you might start to check in with your body. You might notice how this seated shape is feeling, how it might differ from lying down. Maybe starting to bring your attention to your breathing. You might start to notice each of your inhales and exhales. You might even start to notice that maybe your chest rises and falls with each inhale and exhale. Maybe your abdomen expands and contracts with each inhale and exhale. So if you can, possibly noticing how your body moves as you're breathing. We're always breathing, and our body's always moving with that breath. And sometimes we don't often take a moment to pause and notice what that feels like, what that looks like for ourselves. Even when we're still, we're always moving in some way, even if it's very small movements. So again, taking a moment or two here, starting to notice your body, how you're resting in this moment. And if you'd like, you might start to add some movement in your head. So maybe moving your head from side to side. That might be one choice. Another choice might be to move your head up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. And a third choice might be to add some head circles. So you might start to move your head in circles from left to right. So a few choices here. You might move your head, excuse me, move your head from side to side possibly. Another choice might be to move your head up and down. And a third choice might be to move your head in circles. If you did choose circles and you've been moving your head in one direction, feel free to start to move your head in the opposite direction. So maybe moving your head in both directions a few times. When you're ready in your own time, maybe slowly starting to come back to center. If you'd like, you might start to add some movement in your upper body. So similar to the head movements, one choice might be to move from side to side in your upper body. Another choice might be to move forward and back. So maybe moving from forward, a little forward to back. Maybe adding some circles in this movement. So you might choose to move your torso in circles in this shape as well. So again, a few choices here, maybe moving from side to side. maybe forward and back. Maybe moving in circles. So if you did choose circles and haven't already reversed that circular direction, feel free to move in the opposite way than you've been doing. So making sure you're moving your circles in both directions. When you're ready, finding your way back to center in your own time. And if you'd like, maybe crossing your right arm across your body, you might start to hold your right hand with your left hand. So maybe moving your right wrist in circles. Maybe being still in the shape. You might notice a stretch in the stillness. Taking a few moments on this side of the shape, choosing to add movement or stillness. And when you're ready, maybe slowly starting to lower your arms down and making your way to the other side. This time crossing the left arm across your body, right hand holds it there. Maybe choosing to move your wrist in circles if you'd like. Maybe choosing stillness in this shape, finding what feels available to you. If you chose circles, doing a few in both directions. And when you're ready, finding your way back to center, lowering that arm back down. If you'd like, maybe bringing your right hand to your right side, left arm might open up overhead for a side stretch. So you might possibly stay here, maybe doing some small pulses, some small bounces in this shape, or you might find stillness in this shape. Taking a few moments to pause or add some small movements. In your own time, making your way back to center. And whenever you're ready, moving to the other side. The left hand comes down to the floor this time. Right arm comes up overhead. And maybe pausing in this shape, maybe choosing to add some small movements. You might pulse gently up and down. Taking your time, finding whatever movement or stillness feels available in your body. And then in your own time, finding your way back to center. If you'd like, maybe raising your arms up overhead. And when you're ready, maybe finding a forward fold. So you might bring your hands down to the floor. Maybe your back is straight with your head looking in front of you, or you might choose to curve your back and lower your head down towards the floor. Finding any stillness in this shape. If you'd like to add movement, you might choose to walk your hands back to seated. In your own time, maybe walking your hands forward again. So you might choose that continuous movement. You might choose to be still in this shape. Finding whatever is calling to you in this shape, in this moment. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, making your way back to seated if you're not already there. So maybe bringing your hands slightly behind your back if you'd like. And you might choose to bring your head to look up towards the ceiling. Maybe your chest follows into a gentle back bend. Making sure you're not straining your neck in any way. Lifting up, keeping your spine tall if you can. And in your own time, slowly coming back to center, bringing your head and chest and arms back to center. If you'd like, another choice might be to bring your right arm so that it's resting on your upper back. So maybe pausing here. If you'd like, you can take your left hand to hold your right elbow or a gentle arm stretch here. Another choice might be to add some movement. Maybe you choose to move your upper body from side to side. Taking a few breaths on this side of the shape. Adding movement or stillness, whatever feels available to you. And in your own time, slowly starting to let that go and making your way to the other side. This time the left hand reaches up and holds or touches the upper back. You might choose to stay here. If you'd like, you can bring the right hand to hold your left elbow. Maybe you choose to stay here. And if you'd like to add some movement, you can choose to move your upper body from side to side. Finding whatever movement or stillness feels right in your body. Allowing yourself, if you can, to listen to what your body needs during your practice today. And whenever you're ready, slowly finding your way back to center. In your own time, releasing your arms down by your sides. If you'd like, maybe reaching your arms up overhead and then moving into a twist over to the right side. Your right hand might reach to press into the floor behind you. Your left hand might rest on your right knee. If you'd like, you might inhale and lengthen your spine on the inhale. And on your exhale, you might choose to twist a little bit more. This can be as small or as big of a movement as you might like. Taking your time in this shape, maybe making sure you're breathing. Noticing if you'd like to move a little further into the shape, and feel free to do that in your own time. And whenever you're ready, coming back to center, maybe lifting your arms up overhead once again and moving into that same twist over to the left side. So this time your left hand might make its way to rest behind you, your right hand resting on your left knee. If you'd like, you might inhale, lengthening your spine nice and tall. And on your exhale, if you'd like, you might choose to twist a little further into the shape. Taking your time here, noticing what feels available and what doesn't. Letting go of any expectations, letting this be small or big. And then when you're ready, finding your way back to center. If you'd like, maybe starting to extend your legs out in front of your body. So I was seated on a blanket. I'm going to move that aside. So if you were seated on props or anything, you can choose to move that to the side. And maybe starting to extend both legs out in front of you, possibly keeping your feet flexed. Taking a moment in this staff shape. If you'd like, hands can be on your legs or they can be resting by your sides. Taking a few moments here, if you'd like, maybe reaching your arms up overhead and possibly folding forward over your legs, allowing your hands to fall wherever feels available in your body. You might bring your hands to your upper legs, maybe your lower legs. Maybe you're available to touch your toes. So finding what feels right for you. You can have a gentle bend in your knees if you'd like. One choice might be to stay in this forward fold, to pause. And another choice might be to add movement. So you might choose to walk your hands up and down your legs a few times, adding some movement in this shape. Feel free to experiment with both choices, with both pausing and being still, and with adding movement. You can allow yourself to find your own choices for each shape that we move into during today's practice. Whenever you're ready, finding your way back to seated in your own time. And if you'd like, maybe starting to bend your left knee so that your left foot is resting against your right leg. You might bring your upper body to face your right leg. In your own time, bringing your arms up and folding forward over your right leg whenever you're ready. Again, you might choose to rest your hands on your upper or lower leg, maybe on the mat, or maybe you can reach your toes. Finding stillness in this shape if you'd like, or once again, you can choose to add movement, maybe walking up and down your leg a few times. Listening to your body and noticing what feels right for you in this moment. and experimenting with any and all choices that you feel called to experiment with. In your own time, whenever you're ready, slowly making your way to seated, and we'll find our way to the other side. So you might choose to extend your left leg and maybe start to bend your right knee, bringing that right foot to rest against your left upper leg. If you like, maybe raising your arms up overhead and slowly finding that forward fold, letting your hands fall wherever feels right for you. Maybe your hands fall on your upper or lower leg. Maybe you can touch your toes. Taking a few moments in this shape here. If you'd like to add movement, you might start to walk your hands forward and back, up and down your leg a few times. You can also experiment with stillness and being still in either seated or in this forward fold shape. Taking a few moments to experiment with any or all choices. And in your own time, slowly making your way back to seated, maybe extending your right leg long. If you like, you can give your legs a little bit of a pounce, shaking them up and down a little bit. And if you'd like, we'll start to find our way to our hands and knees. So if you have sensitive knees, I might recommend to bring a blanket or a cushion so that your knees have a little extra cushioning for them on your mat. And when you're ready, maybe finding your table shape, possibly so that your knees are underneath your hips, your wrists are underneath your shoulders. So finding where that feels like proper alignment for yourself. And then maybe moving into a few cat-cows. In your own time, you might start to inhale, maybe bringing your gaze in front of you. You might have a curve in your lower back. This is our cow shape. And then in your own time, you might start to lower your head down, curving your lower back up towards the ceiling, possibly exhaling with this movement. This is our cat shape, excuse me. So if you'd like, you can choose to move back and forth in your own time. So maybe moving separate of the breath, you might choose to move with your breath. If you do, you might inhale, bringing your gaze in front of you into cow. And you might exhale, lowering your head down and curving your lower back up into cat. You can choose to pause in one shape or the other. Or you can make this a continuous movement. So really experimenting with what your body is calling for in this movement. Whether you experiment with one or both shapes, maybe it's a continuous movement, or maybe it's a little bit more still. Taking a few more breaths to notice. Maybe noticing your spine waking up a little bit with these movements or stillness. And when you're ready, in your own time, slowly finding your way back to center, back to a neutral back. And we'll make our way to our first downward dog of our class tonight. So you might choose to keep your hands where they are. If you'd like, you can bring your hands a little far forward from where they were, maybe pressing your toes into the mat, straightening your knees, and bringing your hips up towards the ceiling in your own time. One choice might be to add some movement. Maybe you choose to walk in place, bending one knee and then the other. You might choose to move your hips from side to side, maybe bending and straightening both knees at the same time. Finding stillness or movement in your downward dog. And whenever you're ready, making your way to stillness if you're not already there, and slowly lowering your knees back down, to the mat. Maybe starting to sit your hips back on your feet if that's available to you. If not, you might find another seated shape, or you might stay in your table if your wrists are feeling okay. And maybe experimenting with moving your wrists forward and back, maybe moving your wrists in circles. You might bring your hands interlaced and moving your wrists in like a figure 8 movement. So finding any way to stretch out your wrists, give them a little bit of a break. And when you're ready, bringing your way back to your table shape if you're not already there. So bringing your hands back to the mat. If you do notice your wrists are bothering you, you can always bring your forearms down to the mat like this. So feel free to do that at any point in time. If you have blocks or books, the blocks and books can also feel a little bit better with your hands on top of them if that feels available to you. So from our table shape, hands or forearms on the mat and knees, maybe starting to extend your right leg behind you. So you might press your right toes into the mat, maybe giving that a little bit of a rock forward and back. You might notice a sensation in your right calf muscle or maybe in the ball of your right foot. And in your own time, making your way back to center, maybe lifting your leg hip height. And if you like pausing here, maybe taking a moment or two in this shape. And whenever you're ready, slowly lowering your right knee back down to the mat. In your own time, moving into the other side. So maybe extending your left leg this time, pressing your left toes into the mat if you'd like. And you might start to rock forward and back gently, maybe noticing a stretch in your left calf muscle or the left ball of your foot. Finding your way back to center whenever you're ready, and in your own time, maybe lifting your left leg hip height. You might take a few moments here, making sure you're breathing, noticing your balance if you can. And then whenever you're ready, slowly bringing your left knee down to the floor. Now, if you'd like, moving into your child shape, you might keep your knees so that they're next to each other. You might widen your knees and maybe slowly starting to sit your hips back towards your feet. You might start to extend your arms out in front of your body and maybe lowering your head down to the floor or a block or book if you have one. Finding a few moments to rest in this shape. If you'd like, maybe listening to your body. You might move your wrists if they're bothering you a little bit. Feel free to move them forward and back or in circles. Taking another moment or two to pause and rest. And whenever you're ready, maybe starting to tent your fingers, staying in your child shape, you might slowly start to walk your hands over to the right side of your mat. You might notice that your left arm reaches a little further than the right, and you might notice a stretch in your left side body. Taking a few moments to pause, allowing your body to let go of any tension you might be holding. And when you're ready, maybe walking through center and walking over to the left side of your mat. Again, you might extend your right arm a little further than the left. You might notice a stretch in your right side body this time. Allowing yourself to let go of any tension you might be feeling in your body. And whenever you're ready, walking back to center and slowly making your way back to your table shape. Again, your hands or forearms can be resting on the mat. And this time we'll extend our legs again, but we'll add a little bit more movement. So feel free to experiment with the stillness with the raised leg by itself as we did before, or you can choose to add the movement. So maybe extending your right leg behind you. If you'd like bringing it hip height, you might choose to stay here. Or if you'd like to add movement, you might start to bend your knee, bringing it in towards your chest. Your head lowers down slightly. And then when you're ready, extending your leg out away from you, your gaze comes in front of you. So possibly doing that a few times, bending your knee in towards your chest, your head looks down. Extending your leg away, your head looks up. Maybe doing that one more time. Or maybe experimenting with stillness. When you're ready, lowering your right leg down. Marshmallow has come to say hello, for those of you who have not met her yet. And then we'll move into the other side. So maybe extending the left leg behind you. Lifting your leg up hip height. You might choose to stay here. Or if you'd like to add that movement, starting to bend your left knee in towards your chest, your head looks down. And then on the extension, your head looks in front of you. So maybe doing that 2 more times. Bending your knee in, maybe lowering your head. Extending away, head looks up. And possibly doing that 1 more time on this side. Wonderful. And then in your own time, lowering your knee back down to the mat. If you'd like, finding your child shape, once again, you might sit your hips back with knees together or wide. Extending your arms out, maybe lowering your head down to the floor. Another choice is puppy shape, where you might keep your legs where they are. You might start to extend your arms out in front and head makes its way to the floor, or a block or book if you have one. Taking a pause in either shape. If you'd like, making sure you're breathing. And whenever you're ready, finding your way back to your table shape. Marshmallow is wanting quite a lot of attention all of a sudden. So I'm so glad she was able to grace you with her presence today. So if you'd like, maybe finding your downward dog again, you might keep your hands where they are in your table shape. You might bring them slightly forward. Pressing your toes into the mat, straightening your knees, and bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. Maybe pausing here if you'd like to add that movement. Once again, feel free to do so. And when you're ready, slowly lowering your knees down to the floor. Walking your hands back in slightly if you brought them forward. Finding your table once again. And if you'd like, maybe bringing your right foot in between your hands. If you do have blocks or books, you can bring your hands to rest on top of them on either side of your right leg. Or you can choose to have your hands resting on your mat. Now from here, you might choose to be still. Or if you'd like to add some movement, maybe slowly start to walk your hands forward and back. So maybe your hips follow. Might start to walk your hands by your left leg. Maybe you can sit your hips down on your foot, but maybe not. So really listening to your body and making this movement as big or as small as you might like. So maybe this is an extremely small movement where you gently rock forward and back. Or if you'd like to make it bigger, you can use your hands a bit more. Really using the entire length of your mat if you would like, if that's available to you. But I encourage you to really listen to your body and only do what feels accessible. So not everyone might find the movements I'm doing to be accessible in their body, and that's okay. So please feel free to make that movement smaller. And to take the time to listen to what your body needs. And then in your own time, maybe coming back to that neutral space where your hands were framing your foot. And if it's available to you, if you'd like, you might choose to bring your arms up overhead. So maybe pausing here, gaze might be in front of you. If you'd like to move into a twist, you might choose to extend the left arm forward, right arm behind you, twisting over to the right side, maybe coming back to center. And twisting over to the left side, maybe the right hand is forward, left hand is behind you. Feel free to do that a few times if you'd like. Over to the right side, left hand is forward. And maybe one last time over to the left side, right hand is forward. Coming back to center in your own time, maybe lowering back down to your table. You might bring your right foot to meet the left. And if you'd like, maybe moving into a downward dog before we make our way to the other side. If not, you can also pause in your child shape if you'd like. So finding any shape, your child shape, your puppy, or your downward dog. And then when you're ready, finding your way back to your table shape. Wrists are underneath shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And in your own time, bringing your left foot in between your hands. Again, if you have blocks or books, you can bring them to rest, your hands to rest on top of them on either side of your foot. Maybe not, maybe your hands rest on the floor. And if you'd like, you can start to add some movement here. So this, again, can be a place where you pause and stay still. If you'd like to add movement, maybe using your hands to walk forward and back. Maybe it's the tiniest movement and only you know that you're moving. So really listening to your body and moving forward as far as you want to, as little as you want to, and maybe moving back. Maybe you're sitting on that right foot, maybe you're not. Maybe it's a smaller movement, maybe you pause here. So really listening to what your body is telling you in this moment, whether you're using the full length of your mat, maybe you're only using a portion of it. Really taking a moment to listen to your body as best as you can. And when you're ready, finding your way back to neutral, where your hands were framing your foot. You might stay here. If you'd like, you might lift your arms up overhead. So maybe pausing in this shape for a moment or two, maybe seeing how your balance is in this shape. And if you'd like, maybe twisting over to the left side, right hand reaches forward, left hand behind. Maybe coming back to center, twisting over to the right side, left hand is forward, right hand behind. And maybe doing that 2 more times. So maybe moving over to the left side, right hand is behind, and then one last time, over to the right side, left hand is forward. Excuse me, I think I said the wrong thing for the other side. In your own time, lowering your hands down, bringing your left foot to meet the right, finding your way back to table if you'd like. And maybe pausing in your child or puppy. So again, puppy, your hips stay where they are. You might extend your hands forward. Your head makes its way down to the mat, or a block or book if you have one. And child, your knees are together or wide, and then those hands stretch out in front. Head makes its way down to the mat as well. Finding either shape to take a pause, take a moment to listen to your body if you'd like. In your own time, slowly making your way. Come up and out of the child or puppy shape. And finding your way to seated. So if you did have a cushion, you can move it aside. Finding your way to seated. Any seated shape you might like. I might find easy shape with legs crossed. Taking a moment there, and we'll move into our bound angle. So maybe bringing the bottoms of your feet together. If you do have blocks or books, you might bring them underneath your knees. You might bring blankets or cushions underneath your knees for some extra support here. Or you might choose not to use them as well. And when you're ready, hands can settle anywhere on your legs. Might keep your spine tall. If you'd like, you might imagine that a string is pulling your head and spine up towards the ceiling. Taking a few moments to pause in this shape, noticing this stretch in your legs, in your body. Taking a breath or two here. And whenever you're ready, if you'd like, you might bring your hands underneath your knees, bringing them in towards each other, maybe extending your legs out and giving them a nice little shake. Finding your way to lie down on your mat in your own time. So if you've compiled your cushions and blankets, feel free to make sure they're all nearby for the end of our practice today. So finding your way to the floor, we'll find a place to lie down. If you'd like, you can bring a blanket or cushion underneath your head. You might bring a blanket or cushion underneath your knees. If you have several of them, you can support your arms and full length of your legs. If you have blocks or books, you can bring them to the bottom of your mat, maybe bringing a blanket or cushion on top and letting your legs rest elevated at the end of your mat. So finding any variation with any and all the props you have. If you don't have any props, that's okay too. You can find your way to a lying down shape in your own time. So maybe lying on your back, if you'd like, you can choose to lie on your side, finding whatever feels available to you, finding any place where you feel you could stay for several minutes, and using any or all the cushions and blankets and other props that you might have to help support you in this shape. Taking your time, getting to where you might want to be. And if you'd like, you can choose, once you've settled into your lying down shape, you might choose to close your eyes or maybe keep a soft gaze in front of you. If you'd like, taking a few big breaths here, so maybe inhaling through your nose. And if you'd like, maybe sighing, exhaling out your mouth. Possibly doing that 2 more times if you'd like. Inhaling through your nose. And maybe exhaling out your mouth. If you'd like, maybe doing that 1 more time, possibly inhaling through your nose. And maybe exhaling out your mouth. If you'd like, taking a moment to notice your body. Maybe noticing what parts of your body are resting on your mat, and maybe noticing what parts of your body may not be. You might take a moment to become aware of how your feet are resting. Maybe noticing how your legs might be resting. You might bring your attention to your hips. Maybe noticing how your lower back is resting. Maybe bringing your attention to your middle and upper back. You might notice how each shoulder is resting. Maybe becoming aware of your arms and hands and how they're resting, whether they're resting on the floor or another part of your body. Maybe starting to notice how your head and neck might be resting. If you'd like, you can bring a little movement and maybe move your head from side to side. And possibly taking a moment, if you'd like, to notice how your whole body is resting in this moment. Maybe checking in with your whole body. Maybe noticing how your whole body is resting on the floor, on your mat. Maybe being aware of what parts of your body are resting or touching your mat and what parts might not be. If you'd like, I'll be quiet for the next 2 minutes. So feel free to move or be still and use that time in any way that feels right in your body. Taking the next 2 minutes in silence to move or find stillness. When you're ready, in your own time, maybe slowly starting to bring some movement into your body. You might start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Another choice might be to move your wrists and ankles in circles. Another choice might be to bring your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. If you have the room, finding that full body stretch if you'd like. Taking your time, finding any other stretches or movements that you'd like to do to settle back into the room, into the space that you're in. If you'd like, you can choose to roll to one side, maybe taking a few moments there. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, making your way to seated, maybe pressing yourself up to seated, taking your time getting there, finding your way to seated in your own time. If you'd like, you might bring your palms together in front of your chest. May the light within me honor the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Kristin O'Donnell. You may have seen my cat Marshmallow joining us. I want to thank Hands to Heart Center and Boston Public Library for making this class possible. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening. Bye-bye.